good afternoon and welcome to Today on BayTV. We are live in Swansea on Tuesday the 20th of June 2017. I'm Henry Darby-Cook and this is Gaynor Morgan.
And we've been joined by Robert Llewellyn-Jones and Swansea City Council leader Rob Stewart. Thanks for joining us.
I think you've got the order of precedence wrong there. I think this distinguished gentleman ought to come first.
Not at all.
Well, since we last saw you, Rob, there's a couple of things we should catch up on. I think the one that's being talked about a lot, and I think there's a lot of concern over in the city, is high-rise buildings after the Grenfell Tower Inferno. What can you tell us about?
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, obviously our condolences go out to the people affected and those who lost their lives in the terrible tragedy up at the Tower in London. In Swansea, as in Wales, we've got a very different position. I mean, the standards and requirements are different in Wales to that in England. So we've already written directly and hand-delivered letters to all of the residents in high-rise blocks here. We've established that the cladding that we've used and that the systems that we use are not the same as the ones in London. They are fireproofed. But clearly, there are always lessons you can learn from every tragedy. So we're going to be watching very carefully what goes on in London, what they find in terms of what caused the fire and what sustained it and what helped it spread so quickly. So there are lots of things that we think we already know from that incident, but again, we're waiting for the formal investigation to come out with that. But we will apply any lessons or additional lessons from London to Swansea. But at the present time, we do have wired smoke alarms in all of our residences. The doors are fitted to double the standard to an hour's fire retardancy instead of 30 minutes. We don't have people with children. We don't put them into high-rise flats unless they, obviously are in there when they become pregnant. Then they've got the choice whether to stay or move. And we don't put families above a third floor. So there are lots of measures that we take. And of course, we're working closely with the fire service now to, again, look at all of the processes around that.
So throughout your housing stock, you take these measures?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's well, since I remember when I was reporting 40 years ago, that wasn't quite the case. But obviously, you've upped your game, fortunately.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would never say that something like that couldn't happen here, but you can't be complacent. And, we believe that what we've put on our buildings is the safest it could be. But again, we don't know the details of what happened in Grenfell Tower until we know what actually caused and sustained the fire. We won't know whether we need to change or update anything we do. What's
the mood among your tenants, particularly obviously those who...
Yeah, obviously there are a few people who were concerned, but I think, we've moved very quickly to reassure them. There have been a number of fires in high-rise buildings in Swansea and elsewhere in Wales over the last year or few years. They are unfortunately a regular occurrence. It's how you deal with them, and most of them are dealt with very quickly and effectively. But again, we need to know what happened in London.
What is the tallest building you have, high-rise, in Swansea?
I think the tallest one is at the top of High Street around the Devati area there. We've been recently refurbishing those blocks, so they've got the new cladding systems on them, but ours are fire retardant cladding systems with metal structures to them. So we've taken a different approach to how we procure that. So again, that's the tallest tower we have, but we have 11 blocks or high-rise across the city. Some of them are older than others, and some of them have recently been refurbished. So they're all in different stages. So again, there isn't one direct answer for each block, or one general answer that covers everything.
So how seriously do you take your responsibility to the people who can't afford or don't choose to buy their own homes?
Well, again, we fully meet our obligations. But again, I can't emphasise it too much. I don't want to be complacent in this. If there are lessons to learn and if there are things that we need to change and improve upon, then we will do it. But we believe we're above the standards that are required at the present time.
Mm. And what about the emergency services? Are they able to respond as quickly? Because in fairness, the emergency services, were they there in 6 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, look, the emergency service, not only in the terrible tragedy at the Tower, but also obviously the terrorist attacks that have taken place in recent months, they have been outstanding in the way that they've responded. Here in Swansea, we're working closely with the Mid and West Wales Fire Service. We'll be running additional sessions for tenants in terms of fire drills, fire awareness in the coming weeks. We're also reviewing with the Mid and West Wales Fire Service things like the advice that they give to people living in high-rise blocks in terms of how they should deal if a fire occurs. So again, we're looking at everything to make sure that we've got the most up-to-date information and people are aware of what they need to do should a fire break out.
And community relations, What does your research and tell you about that in Swansea? About various ethnic minorities living together?
Yeah, well, look, we were, again, firstly after Brexit, the vote, there was an upsurge in, hate crime and intolerance. That has since, gone back to the previous levels. But again, after every attack, you do get those isolated incidents. We had another one in a school recently where, children are coming in and making statements, clearly picked them up from home and wherever else. But we have the UNCRC, which we've adopted in most of our schools, which teaches children their rights and responsibilities. It helps them to learn about how cultures live together. But, there is always tension there, but, we've had 4 vigils, I think, in the last 2 months in the square, where many people have turned out, even in the pouring rain, to say, Swansea's a city of sanctuary. Will continue to support people, whatever your culture, whatever your background, and that you are free to live your life as you choose in this city. And that's the message that we continue to put out.
Well, moving on. New pink recycling bags, that's something we've got to talk about. I think before we talk about it, we've got a great clip to demonstrate what's new about them. Let's have a little look at that. So this was a trial, but it's been so successful, it's going to be rolled across the city.
Yeah, I know people will recognise we had problems with the plastic waste, especially because it's so light, with bags blowing around the area. So what we've done is to procure these new sacks, which are pretty similar to the garden sacks that people already use for their garden waste. And as the video showed there, they can take over 2 bags worth of plastic waste, but they're weighted as well. So when you have them, they're reusable, so they're a bit more eco-friendly than the plastic bags. And of course, they stop the problems of bags blowing around the areas. So the trial areas that we've used them in has been successful. We'll now gradually swap over the rest of the areas of Swansea to this, improved system, really.
I think most people want to recycle, don't they? But if it's made too difficult in a busy life...
Where do you send where does the refuse go for recycling?
Okay, so we have obviously recycling sites that deal and sort, and then we have companies that we work with to recycle the waste. One of the reasons why we had to change what we could accept into plastic waste recently is because the market changed and there was no supplier or operator that would take the crumply or very flimsy plastic waste. They would only take the hard moulded waste. So that's why we had to change what we could accept in terms of plastic waste. So again, it's a bit market driven. But we do have contracts in place to make sure that as much is recycled as possible. And of course, we are the leading urban authority in Wales for recycling, and Wales is leading the world in terms of its recycling rates. So, we're amongst the best in the world.
Oh, right.
And it does make you stop and think, if you're a shopaholic, what's it going to do with the
You
bags?
wouldn't say that to the leader of Porthcawl Council, who believes that they are East Porthcawl are, but
I'm in Bridgend and we've got new recycling stuff and I haven't had mine delivered, so I can't get my head around.
Yeah, I think we're about 63% at the moment. 63% of everything gets recycled, so still more to do, but we're very, very well placed.
Well, we're all on saving the planet, aren't we?
And in the final moments, let's talk about the new digital arena. I think we've got to fly through. If you talk us through that first, and then we'll have a little chat.
Yeah, so I think this is a video that was released some time ago. So the bottom section there that you could see with the tower and the arena next to the LC, that will be the first thing built. We've got planning permission or outline planning permission out for the whole of this site. So the south of Oystermouth Road is the arena and hotel. The north of Oystermouth Road is all the new shops and restaurants. We've also, as a cabinet, made a decision on who the operator of the arena will be. I can't name the company because we're still in those procurement timeframes, but we'll be able to give you the name early next week. It is a major operator, a company that's familiar with both theatres and large arenas, and I think they're going to be a great asset to the city. So 200 days worth of entertainment guaranteed in the city every year. So.
Exciting times, eh?
Very exciting.
And Brexit is not going to affect it.
We can talk about that after the break, Rob.
papers.
I think that's enough for now. We're giving Robert and Rob on the sofa, and we'll be looking at today's papers. So, see you then. Welcome back to Today on BayTV. I'm Dana Morgan. With me is Henry Darby-Cook, Robert Llewellyn-Jones and Swansea Council leader Rob Stewart have stayed with us. Thank you both.
So we're going to do the papers now. We're going to start with Brian Cant, who sadly died at the age of 83. Much love, children's TV host, and we've got a great clip to remember him by.
With a door. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm Judy.
And I'm Brian. Ready to play? What's the day?
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Brian Cant. For millions, his voice immediately evokes childhood.
Pew, pew, Barney McGrew, Cuthbert, Dibble, Grub.
All the way to town. Oh.
In the early 60s, an audition in which he was asked to sit in a cardboard box led to a job on a new programme.
Do you know what day it is?
Play School.
I had a call to go and do an audition for Joy Whitby, who was the producer. Basically, she
said, get in that cardboard box.
kicked the box out from under her desk and said, get in that box.
I thought, well, it's a fairly calm day, isn't it? And I took some quells for... It was a very similar box. I think I was a bit slimmer then.
Born in Ipswich, he trained as a printer before having a go at acting.
It's Windy Miller. Hello, Windy.
The warm, friendly voice was also perfect for another children's venture.
Windy Miller, sharp
Camberwick Green.
Trumpton Fire Station.
Oh, sweet, isn't it? Much loved by children, Play School, and yes. Makes you feel all nostalgic, doesn't it?
Yeah, major part of my childhood, you know, TV. I remember many of those shows, so yeah. Sadly missed, and of course he suffered with Parkinson's for many years and terrible illness, but...
it is a horrible illness. It's quite sort of underrated.
Especially for an animated presenter like him, you know, so it's be sadly missed.
Quite poignant, isn't it, looking back at someone in their prime. But anyway, much loved by children. And
So we're going to have a look at the front pages today, and as most of us can imagine, they're dominated by the Finsbury Park attack that happened over the weekend. We're going to start with The Eye, which has gone with an attack on us all, 1 dead and 10 injured after a terrorist driver drives into Finsbury Park mosque worshippers. It's one of these things where I think we're all shocked that we're again sitting here talking about something like this. And obviously the strange thing, I guess, is that there's this, again, for us, it's real because there's a Welsh link and there's a link to Cardiff.
is it? Why would a father fall from Cardiff?
Well, this man is not Welsh, is he? He's not Cardiff born and bred, I believe. Not that I'm trying to, the idea that the Welsh connection then is something we could well do without.
But look, as I've said previously, we can't keep everybody safe all of the time. No. That's that there are so many opportunities if people are determined enough for people to create terrorist acts like these. And for me, there is no difference between this act and any of the others that were carried out. Just because this person happens to be based in Wales, happens to be white, happens to be not, what we would normally see in these sort of attacks, that doesn't change the aspect. This person is a murderer. This person has committed murder and a terrorist. Let's not shy away from it. And I was quite disappointed yesterday, I've got to say, by some of the way in which some of the media decided to describe this incident. They were very reluctant to put it in this category until, of course, the police came out and said it very clearly. So, we should not have a difference or a divide between acts committed by a person like this or any other.
Absolutely.
And ironically, I think that didn't the imam sort of come between him and the crowd, and come between the suspected terrorist and the crowd. So,
well, that probably was that act was of great significance, because had the crowd, shall we say, torn him to pieces, then of course that would have been another condemnation of.
Well,
The one thing that stands out again from this is a little bit different from the Manchester attack, where suddenly you see this kind of terrorist cell and the police say, oh, they were known to us. We've heard the phrase again, a lone wolf. Is this something we should worry about, Rob, where people are kind of under the radar and we don't realise this kind of thought process is happening?
Well, look, you apply exactly the same arguments to this person. So, when there have been attacks with people who've been described as Muslim terrorists or whatever, then they've been described as being radicalised. And how have they been radicalised? How did people become into that mindset? Well, again, the question's got to be asked about this gentleman here to say, well, OK, so what were the influences that made him hire a van, drive 150 miles to London and kill people? So, was it the papers he was reading? Was it some of the stuff he was getting? Because again, I think we should be quite rightly challenging some of the media descriptions that have been put out in recent years, especially by some of the tabloids in London, and how they've described the multiculturalism in Britain. And I think they've got to take some of the blame for the acts
questions to be answered in society.
The society that they've created.
A lot of questions to be answered and a lot of things to be put right.
The man is obviously...
Well,
you can't believe that he's of sound mind, can you, to perform an act like that, Gaynor?
Well, one hopes so. But also we get a sense of a coming together among faiths, don't we, and people, which can only be a good thing.
Also on the front of the eye in the top corner, we've got the Grenfell Tower victims remembered. This is Andy Murray, is also a celebrity that has joined the fundraising effort. And obviously we still don't know the full extent of the deaths in this awful tragedy. It's one of the worst I think Britain's seen in a long while. What can that area, Rob, be feeling now? But also the council, what are they going through?
Well, again, it's got to be a response at various levels. Obviously, the council's got a role to play in terms of getting people housed here, making sure that they have the food and the funds that they need to survive, because most people will have lost everything in this fire. And then, longer term, obviously, the national government needs to look at what went wrong, what should have happened there, what lessons need to be learned, and that needs to be applied then across the whole country. But, I just hope this public inquiry gets on with the business very quickly and we get the answers very quickly, because we don't want to wait on this one.
Well, it's a case of finding out what caused that fire. Somebody said it was a refrigerator that caught fire.
I think, as Rob said earlier, there are lots of fires, aren't there? And they're contained and dealt with. Yeah. There's something went...
Yes.
Well, again, I've seen a number of TV reports, and I'm not sure the accuracy of all of them because there's a lot of speculation going on. But in one of them, it appeared that as you say, the refrigerator fire was dealt with, but then the fire re-emerged. And again, we'll need to find out exactly what happened, because again, the question is, how did the fire not only start, what sustained it, and how did it spread so quickly?
And yet again, there seems to be this torpor sometimes among bureaucracy, where reports are just left and petitions aren't dealt with and that sort of thing. And
well,
maybe
again,
that has to be
unfortunate, in terms of the way in which this seems to have been handled in the years leading up to the tragedy. 4 ministers were written to directly. One minister clearly wrote back and said that they weren't going to proceed with that. The others were a little more amenable and said that they apologised for the length of time it was taking. But clearly there are audit trails here of a long history of people saying there is a problem here and it needs to be resolved.
Nothing being done.
And they were ignored, it appears.
In the final moments, Gaynor, do you want to talk about...
Well, I was thinking about interest rates. They affect us all, don't they? They're going to stay as they are for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't see interest rates going anywhere until we know a little bit more about our relationship with Europe and the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
There is too much risk at the moment in terms of we don't know exactly what that deal will look like. So my guess will be that interest rates will stay roughly where they are for quite a period yet.
And just briefly, what's the mood in Swansea? There was this euphoria immediately after the election, wasn't there? And now things to be more of the same, only worse. Just briefly.
would you be in favour? I see the French have shown us the hand of friendship and said, look, think about this again. Would you?
Very briefly,
would you about a referendum?
Look, I think I've said for some time, I'm not sure about another referendum, but there certainly needs to be a vote or a decision on the deal, because nobody, whether you were a Remainer or a Leaver, were clear about the terms about how we would come out. When we know what's been negotiated, we should have a chance to say, well, is that what we wanted?
And a bit of truth might help.
But a truth, yeah, a bit of clarity, a bit of truth. So I don't see anything wrong with us taking a view on whether the deal is the right one for the country.
So it's interesting times.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Chinese curse, Gaynor, so don't blame that on us.
Exactly, so the interesting times certainly on the programme. So anyway, thank you very much, both of you, for joining us.
Next, we're going to be talking Porthcawl Lions with Stephen Simmons, and Robert's going to be staying with us. See you in a minute.
Welcome back to Today on BayTV. I'm Gaynor Morgan. With me is Henry Darby-Cook. And now we're joined by Stephen Simmons. Thank you for joining us. And of course, Robert Llewellyn-Jones has stayed with us. Thank you.
So what are we talking about today, Stephen?
We're going to be talking about Lions Clubs International, which is the largest service organisation in the world, with just under 1.5 million members in over 208 countries throughout the world. And essentially what Lions do is they provide service to the community, effectively service over self. And one of the things that I'm talking about today, apart from Lions Clubs generally, is an event that we're staging in Porthcawl tomorrow to mark the 100th anniversary of the formation of Lions Clubs International by a Chicago businessman called Llewellyn-Jones back in 1917.
And why did he start it? What was the purpose of it in the beginning?
His theory was he wanted to test whether or not if you invited people to do service work, how people would generally react. And I think 1.5 million members worldwide speaks for itself in many respects.
People have really responded.
And this was, of course, in the Midwest, wasn't it?
That's right, yes.
You know, it's ironical, really, that there's a gentleman in the Midwest thinking of establishing an organisation like yours. And here, well, in this country, 1917 was the Battle of Passchendaele and still the carnage of the First World War. Now, you know, when you go, I should imagine that, I wonder how remote he was from that. You know, what he, in fact, did he know anything at all about it, you know? Well, of course, American soldiers were then fighting in had joined the conflict.
Puts it in perspective, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
And it puts it in perspective, the difference in two worlds. So your charity, who do you support?
Lions Clubs itself is not a charity. It's a vehicle for raising funds and providing service to deserving organisations. One of the things that Lions Clubs are very passionate about is a project called Sight First. Back in 1925, Helen Keller, an American civil rights activist, and a deaf-blind lady, incidentally, challenged the Lions to become Knights of the Blind. And consequently, one of the major activities that Lions Clubs International generally get involved in is the eradication of sight issues in underdeveloped countries. And they do it very, very successfully.
Oh, that's marvellous. And are you responsible for those boxes where people can donate their old
Absolutely.
glasses? Yeah.
One of the things that will be happening in this part of the world next year is we're hoping to break the Guinness World Record for the longest line of spectacles, which will actually be along the promenade in Aberavon.
Oh, wonderful.
And that's due to take place maybe March, April time of next year.
Oh, great.
Oh, that's great.
Well, you need second sight if you live here in Aberavon.
Well, I was there on Friday and I was so impressed. It's been really transformed.
Really nice.
Yeah.
I have very happy memories of Aberavon as a kid.
And of course, it's all only next to Scare Beach, which segues neatly into your big event tomorrow.
Absolutely, yes, indeed. We are staging an event to mark the Lions centenary called An Evening with Neil Ferguson. Neil Ferguson is a very renowned historian and a commentator on all things of essentially importance to the world today. He moved to Porthcawl in 2003, brought his young family to the outskirts of Porthcawl and regularly walks along Scare Beach. Now, one of the things that our club do is we do lots of service work supporting the community of Porthcawl, one of which is a beach clean on a fairly regular basis. And some of our members happened to be cleaning the beach at Scare and happened across a rather abrupt gentleman who was very concerned about the state of the beach. It so happens that was Neil Ferguson, and that started a relationship with the Lions Club, which has now existed for a goodly number of years. And one of the things that Neil is concerned about is the use and the operation of community to actually overcome an awful lot of the issues that we're in the world suffering from today. And we only have to look at Manchester and London to realise how important it is to bring communities together. So he very graciously offered to come and speak to an audience, not of invited guests, and there are still some tickets available for the event at All Saints Church on Victoria Avenue in Porthcawl tomorrow. And essentially what will happen is he will speak for a short period of time, and the floor will then be open to the audience to participate in a question and answer session.
Just don't ask any daft questions.
Absolutely.
Anyway, here's Professor Neil Ferguson, and he is addressing this issue of communities.
Absolutely.
That's what his talk's going to be based on.
I think it likely that he will speak on other issues of world importance because there are an awful lot of them around at the moment, and indeed those closer to home. He's certainly controversial, as I said before, but I think he will prove an interesting speaker, and it'll provide a very good platform for people who may not realise the kind of service work that the Lions clubs generally do.
Of course, he did rather controversially say that Britain shouldn't have entered the First World War.
He did indeed, yeah.
And that, of course, millions of lives might have been saved, and...
I think the easiest way probably to describe it is that his views on some portions of history are very contrary, and he likes to advance an opposing view to the view which most of us take from our history books, whether or not at school or university or just general reading.
And to provoke opinion and discussion. He's made a lot of TV programmes, hasn't he? And
yes,
I followed him because I was brought up in that house, his Welsh home, shall we say, Scare, because it was an old farmhouse and it's been done up, as we'd say in the vernacular.
Renovated.
Oh, completely so. I mean, the spot itself goes back to Viking times, and it was completely derelict, just about. And it was done up with lottery money, wasn't it? £1 million worth of lottery money, and then Neil Ferguson and his then wife bought the house.
Dana was the original Maid of Scare, you see.
Okay.
I was the first girl to be born there since
there is contrary view that R.D. Blackmore, wasn't really quite accurate when he wrote this.
I know. If we get back to Neil Ferguson.
So, if anyone wants to go tomorrow night, how do they go about?
Essentially, what will happen, if I can borrow your notes, there is a telephone number, and it is, let me see, a Porthcawl telephone number, and what you need to do is ring.
It's on there somewhere.
I've lost the number.
Well, we can put the number out, can't we?
If you ring 02920 757 818.
I think we read that once again.
That's right. Or alternatively...
Do you want me to read it?
We'll read it out once again, yeah.
Or alternatively, there are tickets available on the door. The event starts at 7 p.m, and we would be delighted to see as many people as possible come along to support our fundraising activities.
In Porthcawl.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
So the number again is 029 20 757 818.
I would have thought it must be so, it must sell out, because he's a very popular and controversial figure, isn't he? And
well, fingers crossed.
Now, what's your involvement? Clearly, you're in a wheelchair.
I've been a member of Lions Clubs International for over 30 years, and specifically Porthcawl Lions for that period of time. I'm one of the 450 or thereabouts thalidomide babies who were born in the late 50s and early 60s. I walk with the aid of prosthetic legs, but sometimes it's a little difficult to walk for lengthy periods, and that's the reason I use my electric chair. But at the end of the day, one of the things that we view very strongly in Lions is that it's very much service over self, and you should always be very grateful for what you have and not what you don't have, because you will always find there are people worse off than yourself.
Well, certainly doesn't seem to have dimmed your energy. But also Lions, I mean, the theme of this talk is great, isn't it? Because Lions is very good at bringing people together in the community.
Well, it sounds like a world community.
It is indeed, absolutely, yeah.
But also in small communities, in Porthcawl and other towns everywhere, it does bring people together to help others.
It does indeed. I mean, for example, in Porthcawl, we have two major fundraising events. Our May Fair, which takes place on May Day each year, and that is our primary source of income. And bear in mind that we have to support charities, national, local and international. So it's important that we have as much support from the local community as possible. And then coming up on the 5th of August, we have our renowned vintage rally, where we have lots of classic and vintage cars coming along. And that event is held at the Porthcawl Rugby Club. And again, it's a really, really good family event. And it's one of our mainstays in terms of the funds that we raise.
Brilliant. And just briefly, what are we doing? What are you doing nationally to celebrate centenary?
Nationally, well, one of the things that we are doing at the moment is, of course, supporting the families in Manchester and London. Our multiple district put out a call a couple of days ago for clubs locally to raise funds to support those families, because in the circumstances in which they find themselves, the help and support which the community generally and the country more widely can offer is always greatly received.
Oh, well. Busy guy.
Absolutely.
And just a quick reminder, All Saints Church tomorrow night, 7 o'clock.
Yes,
Professor
indeed.
Neil Ferguson.
Absolutely.
Not to be missed, really.
No.
Yeah. Right, well, I think we're going into a break. That's very interesting, more than I did before. So we're going into a break. Be lots to chat about after the break, so we look forward to seeing you there.
See you then. Welcome back to your final part of today on BayTV. I'm Henry Darby Cook, and next to me is Gaynor Morgan.
And we have Maureen Nolan with us, fresh from performance last night of Footloose. Keith Milward has also joined us, so fresh from watching Footloose at the Grand.
Oh, yes, it was a cracking show.
Yeah.
What a show.
Yeah, we're getting the stars in because it's nice and cool in here. It's so hot outside that everyone's flocking to join us.
You just walked up from the Grand now and in the heat.
So hot,
well
done. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thank you for joining us anyway.
It's a pleasure.
Before we have a chat, should we have a little look at the trailer?
Please.
Here it is.
Well, you know, it's just some of the energy that's shown. And despite the heat, you were flat out dancing and singing on that stage.
I know.
Unbelievable. How would you say the tour's going?
Really, really well. I think last night was the hottest we've been since the tour started. We were melting, especially in the mega mix at the end. But it's just such a fantastic show, honestly, to be a part of. And you saw it, didn't you?
Yes, well, I'd say that the cheer at the end was possibly the loudest cheer I've ever heard in the Grand Theatre. It really took the roof off, you know.
Yeah.
So I think the reaction from the audience and
it's pure fun, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
And the music, I think people forget, the music was written for the film, but it's fantastic music like Hold It Out for a Hero and Let's Hear It for the Boy was written for Footloose, and Footloose is based on a true story as well.
What is the storyline?
The story is about a Reverend Moore, who has banned dancing and music in a little town in America, and that actually happened. He's got his own reasons for banning, which you find out in the show.
Spoiler alert.
And I play his wife, and I'm caught between him and our very rebellious 17-year-old daughter.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. And it is pure fun. But the cast, they're actor musos, so they're the band as well. I mean, it's quite incredible.
That was incredible, seeing everyone playing the instruments as well as singing and dancing and giving so much energy, you know, and playing the instruments at the same time.
The lead girl, Hannah Price, plays Ariel. She's 25, beautiful hair, and she's a great actress, great singer. She sings Holding Out for a Hero. She also plays trumpet, sax, flute, clarinet and piano. And she has a degree in civil engineering.
That's amazing.
That's just annoying.
And yet your own career, you know, you started when you were 9, is that right?
Yeah.
And you're the longest serving sister within the Nolan. So
they left, some of them left and came back.
31 years, is that right?
If I started when I was 9, it's a lot many years now.
yes, but consecutive years. Yes, and of course you had a big reunion in 2009.
That was the best fun we've ever had, I think.
How many were you as the Nolans?
Well, there was 6 girls, so sometimes there was 6, sometimes there was 5, sometimes a different 5. Terry Wogan used to call us the Nolan brothers, and he used to say they've got a factory in Ireland that just churns out. When one leaves, another one joins. You know. So it was quite confusing who was in it and who wasn't at the time, you know.
It's quite remarkable, some of the statistics that you sold so well. And of course, we've got to mention I'm in the Mood for Dancing, which we all, we can't stay in our chairs when that comes on. We all join in.
It's an amazing song. It's still being played now, I know. You know, we'd never have thought. 1979 that was released.
And you've sold more records in Japan than the Beatles.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
At the time, yeah.
So how did it all start, Maureen?
My parents are singers, were professional singers. So when we moved over from Ireland, when I was about 8, they had an act. And we just kind of gradually joined their act. There was 10 of us then on stage, 6 girls, 2 boys, my brothers and mum and dad. We did the working men's clubs for about 10 years. Then we got a break to go to London. We did Everybody's TV show. And a few years after that, then we had our first hit.
Are we all singing and dancing at home? Did it come naturally?
I mean, it was just something that was just, it wasn't was it a boy or a girl, it's whether they can sing, you know. It was just very natural to us. I mean, when we were kids, we could sing 3-part harmony and stuff naturally. I don't know, it must be in the genes.
What a wonderful upbringing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. And you've worked with such remarkable people, because I hear you worked with Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, we supported Frank Sinatra on his European tour in 1975.
What was that? What was he like to work with?
Still a dream, and he was just so nice to us. And it will probably always be the best thing we've ever done, because my dad was a crooner, and he brought us up on that kind of music standards of the 40s, and especially Sinatra. We were massive fans. So to do his tour was like, you know,
we great for your father as well.
Yeah, we introduced him at the Albert Hall. We introduced him backstage. It was amazing. But Sinatra used to come over at the sound check and say, "Oh, you girls are a little bit too young to remember these songs." And we wanted to stand up and go, "We know every lyric. We know what you had for breakfast."
and yet you are so well known for the Nolan sisters, but your own career, because you have been very involved with musical theatre individually, and Mrs. Johnston in Blood Brothers. You know,
my favourite role.
That is your favourite. For what reason?
I don't think there's a better role for a woman of my age, really. She's feisty and funny and strong, and I get to sing great songs. It's just a fantastic story, isn't it, Blood Brothers?
It is a wonderful piece of theatre.
It draws people in, you know. So I was a massive fan of that show before I got to audition for it.
And actually, you're in the Guinness Book of Records, because you're the fourth sister to have played that.
Four siblings playing the same role in the West End. I don't think that'll ever be done again.
What about, has the talent cascaded down the generations?
Yeah, I think. I have 3 granddaughters now, and I mean, even the baby, she's nearly 2.
Can it sing?
Yeah, I mean, I think she can. You know, she sings Twinkle Twinkle, you know, like all baby. But she sings it in tune. I can hear her. It's really funny, because the 7- and 6-year-old, they'll be saying, "Oh, listen to this, Nanny, we're singing," and I go, "Oh, it's lovely. I can't be like a normal nanny." I go, "Yeah, just a bit flat there, keeping the right key," and they're going, "What's a key, Nanny?" You know.
But none of your children's generation have gone into.
Colleen's sons have. Yeah. Colleen's eldest son has his own band. It's fantastic. Does loads of great gigs. And her youngest son was in Rixton. They had #1 here with "Me and My Broken Heart" last year, and #5 in America, actually. Colleen's children have.
Now, on another level, how do you keep your fitness and all the rest of it up? Because it's very demanding roles.
I don't know. I used to run. That was the thing that I did. I jogged, you know. I haven't done anything for a while, so I need to get back onto it. And this cast are quite into the gym and stuff. There's a gym set, and then there's my set. They don't go to the gym, but I'll probably get back into running again.
Obviously, the running stood you in good stead.
But the tour goes on until is it September? Is it?
Yes, so September. Yeah.
Yes. So
and it's here in Swansea until Saturday.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. 2 shows.
It really is. So I'd recommend it so highly. I had seen it before, but I would never forget this production. It really is so mesmerising.
And then Gareth Gates gets down to his shorts. That's worth seeing, ladies, believe me. But Gareth is amazing in it. I mean, I think he's, not to be patronising, but I think we all think of Gareth as that little shy boy, don't we, winning, you know, but he's done so much musical theatre, Les Mis and everything.
Yes.
And he's so good in this. It's a comedy part.
Willard, yes.
Willard, yeah.
Yes.
They asked him to play Ren, the lead guy, the Kevin Bacon part.
Yes.
But, well, he said, I'm not. You need to be a dancer. But actually, he's quite a good dancer anyway. But he's very funny, isn't he?
He is very funny. It's
so
a
we
revelation.
all need to head down to the Grand Theatre.
Please,
definitely.
I guarantee you'll have good fun. Yeah.
Not to be missed. It's been great.
It has.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to all our guests today and to all our viewers for watching us, especially those that have tuned in for our Talking Pictures afternoon matinee coming up next on BayTV.
And if you're sitting there expectantly, today's film is The Holy and the Ivy, starring Ralph Richardson.
And with that, we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.